The House impeached President Trump less than a year before the 2020 election and one day before the 6th Democratic debate is held in Los Angeles. 7 candidates will be on stage. Impeachment is sure to come up. Our latest CBS News polling shows Americans are still divided on the issue. The poll was taken before today's vote, but it found if the president was impeached, 42% of the public thinks the Senate should convict and remove him from office. The same amount of people think the Senate should not convict him or not hold a trial at all. Here's how 2 Democratic candidates addressed impeachment earlier.
I mean, this is a sad day for our country. We're talking about removing a sitting president from office for conduct that is tantamount to a betrayal of our nation.
The evidence is very clear. This president violated his oath of office. He abused his power. He tried to extort the leader of another country to do his political dirty work, and he got caught.
CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns joins me now from Los Angeles. So, Caitlin, how have candidates been reacting to the impeachment news today?
Well, all but one of the candidates have been supportive of impeaching the president. That one outlier is Tulsi Gabbard, who voted present in today's vote. But she also has had opposing views on a variety of different issues. The other candidates are really evoking some of the themes you've heard from Democrats in leadership on Capitol Hill, saying this is a sad day for America and their role here is to uphold the rule of law. Now, this becomes very real for a lot of these candidates who are running for president, because now this gets kicked to the Senate side, and you have about 5 candidates running for president who are also members of the Senate. So this becomes an added challenge for them to kind of balance the campaign trail with their duties in the upper chamber.
Right. For those 5 Democratic senators running for president, what have their campaigns been saying about preparing for a Senate trial?
Right. Well, this is something we really haven't seen before, and it puts an added challenge for a lot of candidates who want to be spending this precious time on the campaign trail in Iowa and New Hampshire. Remember, we're just a few weeks away from voters actually weighing in on this presidential contest, so it's really crunch time. The senators who are running for president say that their first duty is to the Senate, that they were elected to serve and that this is part of their job in the Senate. But they are very busy really kind of trying to rack up endorsements, have surrogates lined up and ready to go on the campaign trail. We'll see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez after that impeachment vote now on the campaign trail for Bernie Sanders, going to Nevada this weekend, for example. They're also going to try to strategize to figure out how they can be in Washington and Iowa at the same time. So you might see a lot of teletown halls or video conferences trying to really keep up momentum on the ground at a critical stage. The question I have is kind of who will this benefit in the presidential race? On one hand, you could argue that Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg could benefit because they don't have to have any obligations in the Senate and they can kind of spend all their time in Iowa without much opposition. But you could also argue that candidates like Cory Booker or Amy Klobuchar, who has been making gains in Iowa recently, can use their perches on the Judiciary Committee to really expand their national profile. Because one thing that Democratic campaigns will tell you is that it's very hard to break through on the campaign trail in national news, so with impeachment going on. So this could help benefit some who are in the Senate and can have a bigger platform and a voice.
Well, Thursday's debate is there in California. Senator Bernie Sanders is narrowly leading the Democratic field there in a recent Change Research KQED poll. 2020 newcomer Michael Bloomberg is banking on the state, too, and other Super Tuesday states. How have they been targeting the state differently so far?
Yeah, this is a really good example of a national campaign versus a very targeted, almost retail politics approach. So you have Mike Bloomberg, who has been spending lots and lots of money on air. It's very expensive to do that in California, but it is a huge state, very diverse state, and something that could help him boost his profile here. On the other hand, I've been talking to the Bernie Sanders campaign, and they are very much treating California the same way they treat Iowa, which is grassroots, on the ground, kind of going door to door, canvassing. They're very focused in California on Latino communities, thinking that the senator is able to really resonate with this kind of legacy of activism that you've seen in the state. So they are very much focused on the grassroots and thinking that they can have momentum that way. And when you mention the polls, Bernie Sanders is at the top tier here in California, and that's, I think, what you'll hear him talk about tomorrow night and kind of use that. He's going to be campaigning here a few days after the debate as well.
So, Caitlin, a court today has ruled the individual mandate of Obamacare is unconstitutional and sent it to lower courts to see if it could exist without that mandate. Could this reignite health care as a key issue in Thursday's debate or in the race overall?
You know, it's very interesting. As we're talking about impeachment, you and I have talked about how that is really not on the minds of voters that we're talking to. The issue that we hear over and over again when we ask voters what they're concerned about, it's health care still. We saw that in the 2018 midterms. We're seeing that now on the ground in these early states. So this decision could certainly make this front and center of tomorrow's debate, but it also poses some questions for Democrats, because as Democrats agree that health care is a top issue, they are in a bit of disagreement as to how they want to address it. So you have Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden talking about expanding upon Obamacare, not quite going for Medicare for all, the way that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and some other candidates have been talking about. So this decision could be a boost for those supporting Medicare for all, who say that, look, we need to reinvent the whole system because there are some vulnerabilities in the current program. Then you have Joe Biden and others arguing, wait a minute, let's rebuild it, let's boost it instead of tearing it down. The key, though, that you'll hear from Democrats over the next few days is that they want to use this as an argument against Republicans, because Republicans have been talking about trying to dismantle Obamacare. And we know that anytime there's uncertainty introduced in terms of health care, it really is a top issue for voters.
Right. You and I have talked about that so many times, how really that is such a priority for people when you talk to them. All right, yeah. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thank you.